Okay, so today I am going to be sharing with you a counter argument to one of the most stupid arguments, in my opinion, that I hear constantly from people debating in politics, social issues, whatever. And that is that if someone makes the slippery slope argument, that it is inherently a fallacy. Now, I'm currently in a philosophy class at this point, and I have a textbook that labels it as a fallacy. And yeah, so we're just going to dive right in as to why this is not a fallacy, like so many academics and people who learn in academics think. So first off, we have to figure out what the components of this slippery slope argument are. And as far as I can tell, there are two main components: extrapolation and the argument, where does it stop? Now, in order to do this, we're going to start off with extrapolation. Yeah, science. And yeah, that does have to do a lot with science because extrapolation is a key component in scientific research. Um, One of the biggest places you will find this is in physical science and chemistry. But as it stands, extrapolation is a cornerstone in order to do scientific research. In fact, the hypothesis that you might often learn in in high school science with as part of the scientific research method that is commonly used among scientists. That's essentially extrapolation, is hypotheses. Now, we come with contraposition, which is a very it's a common thing that is used in debate, and it's the if something is something, then something also follows, or if not something, then something. So with extrapolation, it does warrant the question: if we can use this in science without the accusation of logical fallacy, then why not elsewhere? And I would like to add on to this. I didn't make a slide for this, but the thing about extrapolation is, yes, the process of utilizing extrapolation is in fact valid, but sometimes it can be proven invalid in hindsight. But just as much as it can be proven invalid in hindsight, it could also be proven valid in hindsight. Which is why I don't think extrapolation should be written off as a key component for a logical argument. I think it's very useful and very helpful when it comes to us asking questions about the world and arguing with people who seem to, you know, think that because we try to predict the future, that therefore we can't come up with an accurate result. So that's out of the way. Extrapolation, it is a valid component of the slippery slope argument. It is a valid thing. And next we come to the argument: where does it stop? And you may be asking, well, that's also the other key component to this. In fact, that's pretty much the main question that the slippery slope argument asks: is if this happens, then will this happen, and this happen, and this happen, and this happen? And that can it can go off on a bit of a rabbit trail, but the main point of why people argue like that is because they're just asking, where does this stop? You're not answering the question of where this ends. So to illustrate this, I've come up with a hypothetical scenario. Let's say, okay, the short answer is no. Let's say there's a war going on, okay? Okay, and in this war, there you have two sides battling each other. Now, one side comes up with an ultimate weapon to try and destroy the other side. And then the other side comes up with an even more powerful weapon to destroy that side. And then they keep developing more and more technology to try and further the battle and the war efforts. And then it would be reasonable to ask the question. Okay, where will this just keep going on? Will this technological advancement in this war keep going on? Will the war itself keep going on so long as we're making these technological advancements? And yeah, so that raises a question: is this unreasonable or unrealistic to ask? And most of you who hear this scenario and hear what's the question being asked in this scenario are most likely going to answer with no. If you are a reasonable person, there are some valid scenarios in which you can ask, where can the line be drawn? And yeah, so there are reasonable and valid ways and places that you can ask, where do we draw the line? Where does this stop? And it's because that checks out, and because extrapolation checks out, then I fail to see how the slippery slope argument is a fallacy, like many academics and a lot of people who argue online and whatnot seem to assume. So that's pretty much it. That's why the slippery slope argument isn't a fallacy, as much as some of us might want to believe it is. And yeah, that's about it. See ya.